Welcome. We're glad you're here and joined us today. I'm Alyssa DeFilippo of Parents Helping Parents, a parent training information center for families of loved ones with disabilities, located in San Jose, California. I manage a program called Connections California, which is a statewide online resource and information hub for transition to adulthood and adult services. And today we'll be talking about what you need to know applying for supplemental security income. We know that applying for government benefits can be overwhelming and difficult, which is why we created this training. Social Security rules are very complex and constantly changing. They also vary by state. So this workshop is intended to be an overview of how to apply for Social Security income in California and how you can prepare by understanding the program and the application process. I think it's important, though, that we explain that Parents Helping Parents does presentations to educate families looking to learn more about SSI and the process. However, we are not attorneys. We don't provide legal advice about your particular situation should you need any. And while we do our best to keep our presentations up to date, this presentation is up to date as of February of 2025. So if you're watching this recorded version of the presentation, please know that some of the information may have changed if you're watching it after February of 2025. So let's get started. Today, we'll talk about an overview of terms, what the Social Security Administration is, SSA, what Supplemental Security Income is, SSI, what Social Security Disability Insurance is, SSDI. We'll talk about the eligibility requirements. We'll talk about SSA, that's Social Security Administration, definitions like income and resources, and my favorite, substantial gainful activity. We'll talk about Social Security's definition of disability for children and adults, and what SSA means about that definition of disability, knowing what the impairments are from something called the Social Security Administration's Blue Book. We also are going to emphasize the role of medical records in the application process, and we'll talk about how to apply for those benefits and then what to do if you are denied. So we want to start by going over the 3 S's so everyone understands what these initials mean. SSA, Social Security Administration. It is the place you go to apply, either in person or online. SSI stands for Supplemental Security Income. It is the cash assistance program meant to help with basic needs. It's a public benefit and it is strictly needs-based. SSDI stands for Social Security Disability Insurance, and it is a federal insurance program that provides benefits to qualified workers who have contributed to the program but who can no longer work. Our main focus today will be on the application process for SSI, Supplemental Security Income. So Social Security offers a broad range of services online and in their offices. They do strongly encourage appointments for in-person visits because wait time can be very long. And most major cities in the United States have SSA offices. They're also found online at ssa.gov, and you can start an application on their website. So any of the blue text with underlines that you see in this presentation, you can use whatever search engine you use, whether it's Google or Go DuckDuckGo, whatever they might be. You can put that information into your search engine line and find information out about this. This presentation is also used as a live webinar. And when it's a live webinar, we're able to use these links as live links. So just know that all this information is out there. You just might have to type in words into your search bar to find them. So since the focus of tonight's training is supplemental security income, let's define it. What is it? It is cash assistance meant to help with basic needs like shelter. And SSI is available to anyone who meets the eligibility requirements, and you don't need to have worked in the past to get it. SSI payments are not considered taxable income for recipients, and it is funded by a federal general tax revenue. And California provides a supplemental payment. Most states do, but some don't. California does. So SSI provides monthly income for people who meet Social Security Administration's definition of disability and who also have limited income and resources. And we're going to define those things in just a little bit. But first, let's talk about who's eligible, who can get SSI. Not everybody with a disability automatically gets the benefits. You must have no other way to pay for the basics like food, rent, utilities. So, children and youth with disabilities under the age of 18 may be able to have SSI. People who are totally or partially blind, there are also some special rules. Again, if you want to know in your search line, special rules for SSI for people who are blind, you'll get information. People between the ages of 18 to 65 with disabilities, and people who are older than 65 without a disability. But again, all recipients must have limited income and resources. Other eligibility requirements include the need to give all financial information that you have to the Social Security Administration so they can check your bank balances and any other financial records. You need to be a U.S. citizen or resident, and individuals must be citizens or fall into certain categories of non-citizens. Must have a disability, must be medically disabled according to the Social Security rules. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then also a couple of things have changed recently about past relevant work. SSA will examine whether the applicant can perform any of the same work that they did in the past 5 years. This 5-year marker has actually been reduced down from 15 years, and that became effective in June of 2024. Reporting on 15 years of past work required people to provide quite a detailed information about 15 years of work history, which was difficult for a lot of people to remember. So it is quite a benefit now that that has been shortened to 5 years. And also, the agency will no longer consider past work that started and stopped in fewer than 30 calendar days. This new rule makes it easier for people applying for benefits by focusing on their most recent work activity. Now let's look at and define income and resources. So resources are assets. A resource is cash or anything that can be converted to cash. SSA is going to ask about bank accounts and any assets you have that can be sold or converted into cash to help pay for your living expenses. There's a complete list on the Social Security website, and it's important to remember that the individual is over 18 years of age. Only their assets, their accounts, their cash is counted, not the parents or the families, even if the 18-year-old or older live in the home. So what is income for SSI purposes? SSA defines income in 3 ways: earned, unearned, and in kind. Unearned income is income that a person earns, not through working. Earned income is income that a person earns through working, like wages, salaries, any taxable employee compensation. There's also a third kind of income called in kind, and that income can be used to meet needs for shelter. It used to be food and shelter, but as of September 30th, 2024, that definition has been shortened to just shelter. So shelter includes room, rental payments, mortgage payments, real property taxes, heating, fuel, gas, electricity, water, sewage, garbage collection services, all the things that have to do with living. Now, taking food out of this equation is a huge improvement, and it actually increases the number of applicants who will end up being eligible for receiving SSI, and also increases the amount of the benefit that some applicants will be able to receive. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so we reviewed the definition of income, but why is it important in the eligibility process of SSI? If your countable income is over a certain allowable limit, you cannot receive SSI benefits. So how does SSA calculate a recipient's allowable limit for income? This is that substantial gainful activity that I said was one of my favorite definitions. So SSI's allowable limit for income is called substantial gainful activity. SSA only allows people applying for SSI to accumulate a certain amount of income every month. And if they go over that amount, they will not be eligible. So this is called substantial gainful activity, acronym SGA. So SGA is the first thing that SSA looks at when someone applies. So the basic requirement for SSI is that the person's condition, their disability, must be serious enough to prevent them from doing a significant amount of work and make a certain amount of money, this allowable amount of income. SGA for 2025 for a person who isn't blind is $1,620. So you can't make over that in a month. If a person is blind, that number for 2025 is $2,700. And there's also something called a student earned income exclusion, meaning that full-time students under the age of 22 may make up to $2,350 a month as of 2025 and $9,460 a year. But again, SGA looks at how much money a person makes a month. So what is SSA's definition of disability? The condition that is serious enough to prevent the recipient from doing a significant amount of work and making the allowable amount of income. So SSA's definition of disability is the inability to engage in any substantial gainful activity, SGA, by reason of any medically determinable physical or mental impairment or impairments, which can be expected to result in death or which has lasted or can be expected to last for a continuous period of not less than 12 months. So we'll talk about these physical or mental conditions in just a minute, but first let's review what the SSA definition of disability is for children under the age of 18. It's very similar, but the difference comes in that the medically determinable physical or mental impairment or combination of impairments that causes marked and severe functional limitations. And then it talks about expected to cause death or last for a period. So it does add this functioning part to it. And just to note that SSA does consider the income and resources of family members living in the child's household when determining eligibility. This is called deeming, and there are rules around that. And again, if you Google something like that, you will find information on deeming. And for more information about benefits for children with disabilities is a good little pamphlet. One thing to consider, though, if your child is receiving SSI, there is a redetermination when they turn 18. There'll be a medical review again, and also an non-medical review looking at income and resources. So they're reviewing to make sure that that disability is still in place and meets the adult definition that we talked about. Now, both these definitions include medically determinable physical or mental impairment. What does that phrase mean? So you'll find medically determinable physical or mental impairment or combination of impairments in the Social Security Administration's Blue Book. Now, the Blue Book, also referred to as the Listing of Impairments, lists both physical and mental conditions that SSA considers disabling. If a person has a condition that meets the requirements for a Blue Book listing, the person will be considered disabled regardless of education or work history. Now, the most essential thing you need to understand is why providing medical records and test results are crucial in proving that the impairment that your loved one has meets the requirements of the Blue Book listing. So you want to avoid an appeal when you're applying for SSI. Before you do anything else, review the medical history and talk with your loved one's doctor. Get those medical records in order the very first thing that you do. Complete a medical history. That means records covering at least the year before applying. Good to provide maybe 2 years of records. Now, we don't want providing 20 years of records. That would be way too much. So just about 2 years. SSA will be asking for all medical records to discuss. So it's important to discuss this with the provider who knows your loved one best. You know, often doctors aren't aware of the impact the disability has on everyday functioning because those well visits, the annual visits, well, often things go well. And often doctors have potentially very little info on the person's disability, especially as the person gets older, unless they have some medical complications. So it's essential that you communicate with your loved one's doctor who knows them best. Now, you want to make sure that the doctor is noting how your person interacts with them during appointments, how much they're able to participate in the exam. We want the doctor to be documenting the impact of the disability in the medical records because SSA is looking for a medical determination. Remember that phrase, medically determinable physical or mental impairment or combination of impairments. Those are the words from the definition of disability. So you want to make sure the impact of the disability is in the medical records. So how do you do that? You supplement information that you're giving the doctor along with the appointment, right? So again, just maybe from 2 years, not from 20 years, but you could provide the most recent assessments from the last 2 IEPs, if applicable, and hopefully within the last 2 years. That will help determine level of placement, functioning, language, comprehension. You might want to provide assessments from other medical providers, a neuropsych, a psychiatrist, a neurologist. You might have some other private assessments or reports. Maybe you have some regional center assessments or reports. Anything that indicates and suggests how your child or adult functions at your home or their home or work, because the doctor just doesn't know this unless they're told, right? So you want to remember to communicate this to the doctor to get it into the medical record and let them know why. Share with them the eligibility criteria so the doctors understand what the medical records need to reflect. Now, sometimes they might already know, but sometimes they might not. So it's important that the records indicate the language that the impairment language that's in the Blue Book. So we want to remember that the goal is to demonstrate the current state of functioning and disability impact on either their ability to function for a child or their ability to work for an adult. And we're looking to help the person who never met your loved one and has to make a decision about eligibility get a more thorough picture of your loved one's functioning and capabilities. And if you don't have the records, well, you can ask the doctor to please write a letter and explain how the disability affects your child or adult and their ability to function and or work. Or better yet, write the letter yourself and just ask the doctor to review or sign it. In that way, after you have a conversation with them and they're fully brought up to speed and they agree with you about the impact of the disability on your loved one's life, they'll be able to sign that and it becomes part of the medical record. So if you come away from this presentation with one nugget only, let it be to include all the essential medical record information in your first application. Now, there is a story that I can tell you about one of our colleagues at Parents Helping Parents. And she has a daughter who was denied SSI when she turned 18, even though she received it when she was younger. So there was that reevaluation at 18 that we just talked about. So why? Because the medical records she initially provided did not include information about the impact of her daughter's disabilities on her daily life and her ability to perform work. She was physically healthy at most of her childhood, and there was nothing in her medical records showing about how her autism impacted her. Our colleague didn't know to include that kind of information. So she ended up hiring a public benefits expert who reviewed her daughter's records to see what they were lacking. He advised her to hire yet another person, a qualified medical evaluator, who's a physician who evaluates you when there are questions about what benefits you should receive, so your loved one, and conduct a comprehensive neuropsych evaluation. So her evaluation included areas of challenge, impact of those challenges on her daily life, impact of those challenges on her ability to work, and everything was stated in the language the SSA is looking for. Once she provided that report to the SSA, her daughter was approved for SSI. So again, just this one nugget, if you go away with just this one nugget, medical records essential. So the important question to ask now is, do you have a headache yet? Because this is very frustrating, somewhat confusing, and you're not alone if that's how you feel, because this is a lot. But if you just remember to provide current and past medical records and test results that illustrate the impact of the disability on your loved one's life to the doctor to get those into the medical record, you'll be, 85% of the way there. And if your loved one with a disability is working and making more than that SGA for now 2025, which is $1,620 a month, they're probably not going to be able to be eligible for SSI. But, who knows? You could probably just call and ask. But since SGA is one of the first indicators, it might not work. So you've done your homework. You've paid attention to creating appropriate medical records. Now what? You could be ready to apply. So you could try by checking out something called the Disability Starter Kits. Now, these are not the application. They just help you get ready for the application. And it gets you familiar with the application process. And the application process is made up of two parts. There's a disability report and an application. So you can access either the adult disability or the child disability starter kit on the SSA website. They contain fact sheets with frequently asked questions. You'll see what that looks like on the right side of the screen here, and also checklists of information and documents you may need. But don't feel like you have to have all your documents together to apply. It's okay to start the process online or with a phone call. So there are a few different ways to begin the application process. One way is to start filling out the disability report online. This isn't the application, remember, but it does start the process. And then you have 60 days to complete the online application to protect what's called your protective filing date. Now, a protective filing date is the date you initially contacted the Social Security Administration to let them know of your intentions to file for SSI. This date determines when benefits begin, and it affects how much you or your loved one, right, would receive in back benefits. As of September of 2024, for children, you can complete a portion of the report online, but then had to finish by contacting the SSA in person or over the phone. Now, I'm not sure how applying over the phone is working, going forward now, in February, March, April of 2025. It may be quicker or more expeditious to do something online. If you don't have the capability to do something online, maybe making an appointment and going in might actually be easier than trying to get through by phone. I don't know. But another way to apply is to use Social Security's protective filing tool. That's just basic information like name, address, Social Security number. And after you complete that, an SSA representative will make an appointment with you and call back and call you to help you apply for benefits. And could take 7 to 14 days, may take longer right now. Lastly, you could also call the SSA number and make the appointment. Like we said, have somebody, and the day that you call to make the appointment becomes your protective filing date. So even if your appointment is, 2 months out, your protective filing date is the day you called. And lastly, you could visit your SSA office and just kind of like wait to be seen. But again, highly recommended that you call and make the appointment. So the SSI application process can take from 3 to 6 months to complete, starting from when Social Security has everything that they need to make their decision. So your local SS office is going to send the application and medical records to someplace called the Disability Determination Services Unit, or the DDS unit. This is the department that makes the determination of your child's eligibility. This is the person who is sitting and reading the medical record. So it's not even the person you're talking to at the SSI office, which again is the reason why we say get as much information in that medical record as you can, because the definition of disability is the medically determinable physical or mental impairment, right? Okay. So if the application is approved, Social Security will then, I would say, send a check into your account, but I believe they only send direct deposits now, and they'll go back to the date you applied, that protective filing date. So, yay, you've been approved. You've gone through the lengthy process of applying for Social Security benefits, and you might think as soon as you're approved, you'll see that deposit in your account, and it would be great if it were that easy. But you'll receive a notice of award letter, which will include the monthly benefit amount. This will vary based on income and living arrangements. Any kind of back pay, either in a lump sum or installments, back to that protective filing date. Again, you want to remember that term. And the payment start date. Usually you receive a benefit 30 to 90 days after receipt of the award letter. So there still might be some waiting time in there. And I do believe that the law requires the electronic payments now. So direct deposit or a debit card. Also, just something to note is that if the recipient can't manage their own funds, then the funds can be sent to a representative payee. And that representative payee needs to set up an account. That's a representative payee account. And banks know what they are. They've set them up before. And then that representative payee becomes the person who manages and uses the money for the well-being of the recipient. So let's take a look at the 2025 monthly benefits. As mentioned earlier, SSI in California is made up of 2 parts, the federal benefit, which is the bulk of the monthly payment, and a state supplement. Most years, the federal portion of the monthly benefit goes up just a little bit. I believe we saw an increase of 2.5% from 2024 to 2025. But you'll see that the full benefit for a person who is not blind is $1,206.94. Now, again, depending on where the person lives, that amount could be less. Okay, so that's if you get approved and you start the payments. But what if you're denied? I mean, you're not alone in that. 6.5 out of 10 or 65% applications are denied for first-time applicants. This is an older graphic, but it's still pretty much the same that first time out, folks are denied. Majority of folks are denied. Now, that's why we want you to be aware that the primary reason for denial is that there wasn't enough medical evidence to prove your case. And having that robust medical history and record is so very important. If you're denied, you'll receive a notice of denial in the mail, and sometimes the notice will include the technical rationale or the explanation of medical issues that led to the denial decision. If it's not included, you can request it so you know what you're missing. And then you can resubmit using that information that you were missing, or gathering it first and then resubmitting using that information. You can always appeal. You can have a lawyer or other qualified person represent you during the appeal process, or you could do it on your own. You want to act within 60 days of when you get the receipt of the denial letter. And I think that the SSA figures receipt is within 5 days of when they sent it. So even if you receive it in 10 days after they sent it, that's 5 days off your 60. That's counting. You want to, again, know the reason for the SSA denial so you can submit more and different information that will help with your case. Now, there are 4 options for appeal, and they actually need to be done in a certain order. Reconsideration first, administrative law judge hearing second, Social Security Appeals Council third, and federal court fourth. This is not a presentation on how to appeal, and Parents Helping Parents staff, we're not attorneys, advocates, lawyers. So this is something where if you do want to appeal, you may want to get some legal or other professional help, but these are the options for appealing. Our hope is that with this training and with getting a really robust medical record in place the first time around, you will get approved. We hope. We want to demonstrate that the current state of functioning and the disability's impact on either their ability to function or work is really spelled out in that, so that the medical determination goes your way. So you may be thinking, no more work with SSI. We were successful either the first time or the second time or the third time. No more work with SSI. We wish that were the case. There are continued eligibility requirements. You'll receive a notice of review, usually by mail. Review can be in person or by phone, or sometimes by mail, actually. Information on income, resources, bank accounts, employment earnings, everything is reviewed. Any kind of life changes, marriages, babies, change in living arrangements, review of medical condition once again. And you always want to remember to report any changes of the above to SSA immediately. And those eligibility requirements are pretty much the same as during the initial application. So keep all the financial records and medical records up to date, because you never really know when you're going to receive that notice of review. Phew. So there are a few changes that happened in 2024, which we're not going to talk about in very much detail here, because again, this is a presentation about applying for SSI. But these SSI rulings were meant to reduce barriers and expand access to SSI. So it's important just to note them. There was something that broadened the definition of public assistant household, and which in turn increases eligibility for individuals to get SSI. Also, as we mentioned, food has been omitted from that in-kind income support calculation, and that was a big one. So that also allows for a broadened eligibility. Uh, and then the fourth one is about a rent subsidy rule, which is a little complicated to explain. But again, I think if you want to know more about these, Parents Helping Parents is bringing attorney Kevin Urbash to the Connections California screen. He'll be here on April 14th of 2025, and then within 2 to 3 weeks, the recording will be in our video library. It's called Recent Changes to Public Benefits Programs for Persons with Disabilities, and that will be an accurate and detailed accounting of the changes. So hopefully, if you'd like to know more about that, you can tune in to that video. And one more thing we want to say before we end, because we're almost done, is just something to note is that there's something called Cash Assistant Program for Immigrants. It's called CAPI. And it's a 100% state-funded program designed to provide monthly cash benefits to aged, blind, and disabled non-citizens who are not eligible for supplemental security income. We would recommend Department of Social Services, your county welfare department, to investigate this program and where this program is right now at this point in time, as you are watching this video, where the CAPI program is. So, Parents Helping Parents, staff here, we're not experts in public benefits. As I said, we're not attorneys, we're not financial planners. We are, most of us, parents of loved ones with disabilities, and we have navigated the disability world and disability services for our youth or adults' lifetime. But PHP staff does not help with applications. We're not medical experts who are going to help you complete the forms. But there are experts out there who could help you if you wanted to. Disability financial planners, public benefits coaches or consultants, attorneys, regional or national specific disability organizations or foundations sometimes have information that help with SSI applications. I know my daughter has something called Prader-Willi syndrome, and I believe it was the National Association had an SSI packet about how to fill out SSI and what things you might want to include. I think there was a whole physician's letter in there that you could bring to the physician and they could check off things. It was maybe 3 pages long. So check those out too for your loved one's disability. Parents Helping Parents has a community resource directory, which is online, available 24/7. You don't have to call and talk to anybody or wait for a call back. You could just put in the search bar what you want to search for, and you can come up with some information about professionals who may be able to help if you're looking for that. And we also have information online, our Connections California pages. If you go to the PHP website, php.com, and go to Connections California, Adult Life, under Financial Planning or under Public Benefits, you'll find lots of information and lots of links that can help you. And of course, this video is a great place to start. We have lots of other videos too. So if you go to php.com and you want to look at any of these videos, just take the title and put it in the search bar, which is in the upper right-hand corner of the landing page of php.com, and you'll find information. We try and keep our videos anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes because we understand how crucial your time is, but we also understand it's important to get this information in little snippets when you can. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm hopeful that you got some good information. And what's that one thing that you're going to remember? That's right. To make sure you create a robust medical record that matches the definition that the SSA has for disability. Thanks for coming. We appreciate your time. Take care.